Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is the April garden checklist video. I do one of these each month just to talk through what I'm doing here in my garden in Raleigh, North Carolina, Zone 7B. April, of course, is a big transition month between, where we typically, in my area, have the chance of frost early in the month, and hopefully by the end of the month we're done with it. But keep in mind, my average last frost date is right there in the middle of April, and we get half of our frost beyond that. So as we get toward the middle of April, I'm always looking out another 2 weeks when I'm thinking about what's going in the ground and what's not. As you can see, the landscape is coming back to life very, very quickly here. I've had to protect things a couple times in March because things got a little bit ahead. I had some things get stung during the month, and it seems to slow them down, and everything now is like probably right on time, which is a good thing. So I don't think I'm going to have to do a lot of covering, even if we have a chance of a light frost like we did a couple of nights ago. This time of year, you'll go into box stores and potentially garden centers and others and see lots and lots of summer annuals, shrubs with tons of new growth on them. Everything is looking great. Definitely a month to be cautious about what you're putting in the ground and when you're putting it in the ground. Let me show you on a couple shrubs here real quick. I definitely don't want to discourage you from planting in April at all, but do be careful if you're, a lot of plants are shipped in from southern states, to where you are. And so they may have come from a much warmer climate. They may have come from a greenhouse. And so as an example, here are two encore azaleas. One of them's absolutely covered in new growth. And I got a little bit of a frost 2 nights ago, and you can see, the damage that it took right here on top. It's not that big of a deal because it was, it was only 31 degrees or so, so it wasn't terrible. Probably didn't damage the flower buds, but you can see this is one that was taken out from an area that was abnormally warm, and then it got some frost damage on it, as opposed to this one, which has just been outside all winter and is completely acclimated to the elements. This is the way a shrub should look when it's still cool in your area. So I don't discourage you from buying this though, because we definitely have a shortage of plants because of all the new gardeners in the last couple of years. So buy it, but just keep in mind you may have to throw a sheet or something over something that has this much new growth on it. Another example, I acquired this maple that's going to go in the ground this month. I'll have a video on it, but you can see all of this new growth on it. It was in a greenhouse. It's got 6 inches of new growth on it. So when we got a frost 2 nights ago, it came into the kitchen and sat there overnight. And it's outside on the warm days, but I'm going to get to my frost-free date and a little bit beyond before I put this maple in the ground. Despite it being too early to be putting my summer annuals and perennials that have come up because they were clearly in a greenhouse like this hosta, I am acquiring them just because I feel like this year, could be a shortage of some of the things that I want. So I'm not shying away from buying them, but I am protecting them on the cooler nights. They're just going to stay in the trays and be outside on the warm days. If the nights fall below mid 40s, I just pick the tray up and bring it into the kitchen for the night. No big deal. Got lots and lots of things that I've done from seed. So this is all my summer vegetables, all the summer annuals, some perennials as well. Definitely not too late to be doing things from seed. In fact, if you watch this video and then start your seeds pretty quickly thereafter, by the time they're ready to be transplanted in the ground, all of this talk about frost and all of this talk about trying to get things in the ground ahead of time and then being damaged is kind of out the window. By the time you get them ready to go in the ground, they'll be we'll be past that time anyway. I put up a video during March about jump starting dahlias, and here's a dahlia that has started to come up from that. Again, these came in the house for 3 consecutive nights. I hope that's it. I hope they can just be outside from here on out, but I'll wait until after I'm definitely past my last frost. So again, waiting till mid-April and then looking at the forecast before they go in the ground. Things like elephant ears and other tropical summer bulbs and corms, those can be jump started as well. Just put into a container, get them growing a bit, protect them from the frost, and then they can go in the ground later. I did some ranunculus in that video. The ranunculus is starting to come up as well. I just talked about the summer bulbs and corms like the dahlias and elephant ears and so on and so forth. Lots of things available right now, I'm sure, to purchase on those things that need to go in after frost. Your winter or late or early spring flowering bulbs, the ones that went in the ground back in the fall, like these beautiful tulips and these daffodils that are behind me. After these flowers finish, it's really tempting to go in here and cut your bulbs back. Make sure you're leaving the foliage until they die back. Some of these tulips for me here in Zone 7 I treat as annuals, but definitely all of my daffodils and all of my other flowering bulbs, let the foliage completely die back to the ground before we cut them back. I have a lot of the containers gathered up right now because sometime in the next month I'm going to do a container refresh video, putting some things in slightly larger containers and just kind of rearranging my containers. In general, these shrubs that I've had out here in containers could definitely be transplanted from one container to another, no problem, because they've been acclimated. But again, be careful going and buying things that are, on a table somewhere that are in full flower for the summer and plugging them into your containers too early, because they're even more vulnerable being up above the ground than if they were in the ground to frost. So keep that in mind. I like to do my own hanging baskets. I don't have a great place at this house for hanging baskets like I did on the old front porch at the old place, but I do like to do my own hanging baskets. And your best selection of things to plant into those baskets is right now. So if you want to acquire those, an empty hanging basket, and have those things ready to go, that's probably a good idea. One of the main reasons I like to do my own hanging baskets is when you buy a big hanging basket that's already in full bloom, hanging over, just so perfect, they're probably not going to last all summer unless it gets transplanted into a slightly larger basket. So I like to start and do my own, and then I find that I have that basket almost the whole season before it becomes an issue with having to water it as many as 2 times a day. If you've had that experience with hanging baskets, the absolute best selection of fruit trees and fruit plants you're going to find is right now. Things like asparagus and strawberries and apples and pears and all of those things that you want to add. Blueberries, figs, you might want to acquire those things now. Again, if they have lots of new growth on them, grab them, bring them to the house. Don't put them in the ground until after the frost-free date. If they haven't leafed out, stick them in the ground for sure. I've talked about many times on this channel about designing a garden for what you enjoy, and for the main thing for me is I enjoy inviting pollinators into this garden. And so this is a tray that I've done from seed that are dahlias on one end and a couple various asters on the other. Here's a tray of Summer Jewels salvia that I actually purchased from a garden center the other day. None of these can go in the ground, but all of these have been done with the idea of having pollinators in the landscape. If you want to go back and look at the seed video I did a video a couple months back on seeds that I was going to be using this spring, if you want to find out some of the things that I'm using to invite pollinators into this landscape. I have the vegetables that I've started inside, which is mainly just peppers and tomatoes. I actually started a little bit of okra inside, but I can also direct seed that okra. The rest of the stuff for the summer garden, I actually direct seed, and I'll wait again until the end of April. This is the theme of this video, is it's not really quite time to put things in unless they've been acclimated to the outside and they're hardy in your area, not tropical. All of my beans, squash, zucchini, what am I missing? Cucumbers, again, okra, all of that stuff can be just direct seeded when I reach that time. I put cool season crop of vegetables into the garden, I guess about a week and a half ago now. Lettuce is jumping up, collards, several other leafy greens. I've got it surrounded by a net so the rabbits don't get to it. Potatoes have gone in grow bags back here, and there is a cover over them this morning because I've had a few nights where it was quite cool, and the foliage is up on them and they can get burned. The foliage itself can get burned. Typically the potatoes are okay, but the down in the bag. But the foliage, I'm protecting that. What else for out here? If you don't have a cool season crop of vegetables, and you're thinking about, well, what can I do in the vegetable garden in the meantime before summer vegetables go in, you can definitely put down compost. Get the area weeded. Get down a fresh layer of compost. That's basically all I do here. This garden was tilled the first time it was used 2 years ago. Since then, each time a new crop of vegetables go in, a thin layer of compost goes back over the top just to kind of rejuvenate the soil each time. So this year I'm rotating where I have my tomatoes. They were on this end of the of this strip. They're flipping over to this end. I've got some cattle panels that I'm putting on that end. Ideally, I'd actually like to rotate this across the entire landscape. I'm rotating them within this small space, but I'd really like to rotate them somewhere else in the landscape altogether. It's just this is the only spot that I have that gets full sun all day long, and that's kind of what peppers and tomatoes and summer vegetables really require. So ideally, I wouldn't have a vegetable garden, you know, where all the vegetables were together. I would have them throughout the landscape. So whatever it is you have going in your garden, whether you're buying the plants from a garden center, box store, wherever, or you're starting them yourself from seed, or you're putting the seed directly in the ground, make sure you're labeling everything, because you want to be able to record at the end of the season the things that were successful and the things that weren't successful, so you don't repeat the same ones over, or maybe there's a tomato you like more than the rest or not. So make sure you're labeling everything as you go. One other thing to consider is stagger planting. You don't have to plant all your tomato plants at one time. I've done far less from seed this year than I did in the years past, and I hope to leave a spot here or there where I can come in and plug in some tomato plants later in the season, which will extend the season that they'll grow well into the fall. So backing up way earlier in the year, I actually fertilized quite early this year. It was like toward the end of January or into February. If you haven't fertilized at this point, I'm talking about your shrubs, trees, you know, just your general landscape. Definitely time to do that. And I use an organic fertilizer here. And that seems to, that really works well for me. In March, I put up videos on mulching. I put down a triple shredded hardwood mulch in the beds over here after I weeded. Weeding's important. Get the weeds out, get it mulched. The mulch does all kinds of beneficial things. There's a video from last month on 4 types of mulch that I use in this landscape. There's compost around the turf edge and around the bed edges out here, and those are for my annuals, for the pollinator plants that I was talking about earlier in the video. So right now it's pansies, and there's some garlic here, and there's some snapdragons and bulbs. Later in the season it will be, again, my summer annuals, and they go into compost. Compost works as mulch as well. And in the paths here I've got some wood chips. Wood chips make fantastic mulch as well, and they also make great garden paths. And so that's the things I'm definitely concentrating on leading up to doing whatever spring planting you're doing, is having it weeded, having it mulched, you know, having the ground covered, having it fertilized, and then from there, I have a drip irrigation system out here. I haven't fully finished hooking it up, and I'll get to that sometime later this spring, and I'll show you guys that. I don't do a whole lot of timed watering, meaning I don't want to water because it's Tuesday. I want to water because things are dry. So with this place well weeded and well mulched, I can just come out here, pull some mulch back, see if it's in general dry, and then I would decide to water just based on my visual inspection of it. I talk a lot about pruning in these videos. Here we are in April, and a lot of the early spring flowering things are about to flower. And so, you know, things like this Loropetalum, azaleas, a lot of the azaleas in my area are already open. Any of the early spring flowering things you definitely don't want to be pruning. In fact, at this point in the season, I'm probably not going to prune a lot of flowering things, period, just because not knowing, you know, what you have. I think the best recommendation I could give to you at this time of year would be to wait until after it flowers and then prune it if you need to prune it. The exception to that is if you have something that's just out of control and needs to be hard pruned, because this is a good time of year to do that. So if you need to reset it, just go ahead and go out there and reset it hard. If it doesn't come back and look like what you want it to look like, don't be scared to take something out of the ground. I feel like that's a lot of what I do on this channel, is give people permission to pull out things that aren't making you happy. You know, if it's not making you happy in the landscape, if it's a 30-year-old holly that's, you know, just woody at the bottom and you can't seem to get new growth to come out on the bottom of it, or if it's an azalea that's suckered into a big giant colony and it just underperforms every year, it's okay to take that stuff out. I look at that as an opportunity to landscape. It is a great time of year to get into your plants and clean them up though. So if you've got leaves in them from the winter, you can get in and pull the leaves out of them. I would definitely appreciate that as part of your weeding and mulching task. Definitely getting out any dead limbs that are in them. You can just kind of feel around. You can see the difference in the color from a dead limb to to a living limb. If you're going to be doing if you're trying to tree form a plant, limbing it up from underneath and creating some underplanting space, great time of year to take off those kinds of limbs. Great time of year to take off a crazy limb of any kind. Doesn't matter whether it's a flowering shrub or a non-flowering shrub. If you got some limb on something that's sticking 3 feet out from the plant somewhere, walk past it and just take it off. The plant's not going to be in pain. It's going to look much better. It doesn't matter what time of year that happens. So tons of bulbs were planted into this landscape this year. And like I told you, after they finish flowering, I'm going to let the foliage die back before they disappear. But at some point they will disappear. And so these need to be marked as to where they are on some sort of plan or right here in the landscape with some sort of marker so that you're not digging them up when you're doing other work in the garden during the season. So that's part of my planning process for the year, is to make sure that I know where these bulbs are so that I don't dig them out. I've showed you, I got trays and trays of things that are going into the landscape. And the beauty of buying some of these shrubs early and these annuals early and the things that I have seeded is I can come out here and lay them out just in the individual trays here and there. And they can be laid out in several different ways, and I can make a decision on how I want them to go into the ground. This is one thing that I tell people in consultations frequently, is you can go and buy your shrubs and your annuals, your perennials, trees, whatever it is. You can move them around several times. Lay them out, go to work, come back the next evening, walk around again, move them around a few times, take a few photos. You don't have to sink them in the ground immediately. You can kind of, maybe a few subtle moves of the containers will just be an aha moment for you and create a better layout. April is still a good month for transplanting. I'm going to be transplanting this azalea, but I will let the flowers pass on it before I transplant it. But if you want to follow along with the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and you'll see me move this azalea during the later in the month of April. There are only 2 small spots of turf in this landscape, and the back one is probably going away. It's just not quite enough sun out there for that. This zoysia, this Xeon zoysia is starting to wake back up. Keep in mind, the less turf you have, the easier it is to maintain. And so this little spot in the front garden here can actually be hand weeded occasionally. It doesn't require me to do anything more than that. It's waking up now. I have fertilized it once with an organic fertilizer. Sometime in the late spring, early summer, I'll hit it again with an organic fertilizer again. So again, this being the theme of this video is be careful in April, it being a transition month. When you're bringing your houseplants out is another thing. Houseplants can definitely be injured by frost. And so, be careful to not bring those out until after your frost-free date as well. Also, think about the fact that they've been inside in low light. Be careful bringing them out into the full sun. That's the same thing with your seedlings. The seedlings that I have inside the house have definitely not been acclimated to full sun. They're on a light rack inside, and so they're getting more than if they didn't have that. But I'm careful bringing them out, and I wouldn't bring them out of the house in the middle of the day, like noon, into the full sun, because they will wilt if you do that. So just be careful with the transition to cold and the transition to direct sun. The other thing about this landscape, other than it being a pollinator garden, is it's also a great place for birds. I'm sure you can hear that in the background of this video, is how many birds are actually out here. And so I have birds doing lots of work for me. And so I make this as bird friendly a place as I can for hummingbirds. There are bird houses here, and there's bird feeders here. And I can sit out here in the afternoon and watch robins flip every leaf over in this backyard and eat insects. And I have insects that eat caterpillars off my broccoli, or birds that eat caterpillars off my broccoli. And I have birds doing a lot of the work out here that I would have to do with chemicals otherwise. So invite them into your landscape. They're an important part of how the system works. So thank you guys for following along with these monthly checklist videos. I'll be back in May with another one. And again, just kind of be cautious with this month. Be looking at the weather out in front of you, for at least a couple weeks. And know that time is going to be frost-free before you're putting in these tropical things. Thanks for watching.